Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Circle of Peaceful Progress, which is known as Fulsome Fridays for all of you. And as promised, there is a mix of things that we are going to be offering on Fridays. It's not just musty, it's a little bit of also understanding some interesting things about ourselves or what we can learn from what the panel brings to us, right? On popular demand, really on popular demand, we have Shubha Joshi back with us. And Shubha, last time spoke on the topic of human biography based on chakras and the response and how people had wanted her to continue or have a session immediately on the following Wednesday will still be remembered by the people who were here. But then we have Shubha again with us today. And this time she has another interesting topic up her sleeve and how beautifully Redikall mixes with it to give the effect, to give the benefits, to make us all believe that how our how outer sense organs groom our internal organs. So this is quite intriguing. And before I hand over the stage to Shubha, I just want to say thank you, Shubha, so much for coming at such short notice. And yes, we are very keen to hear what you have to say. I won't take much more of your time. So let's find out from you how outer sense organs groom our internal organs. Over to you, Shubha.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it's my pleasure to be with like-minded people and also to see, I mean, I always blend Redikall with anything I do. So when you say it beautifully blends, it always blends. So thank you very much. And I admit this session under the loving care of Redikall consciousness. That gives me goosebumps. The topic I have chosen today is about the sense organs, how the sense organs with which we perceive things, perceive the earthly physical world around us, and how it affects our internal organs, or how we can also groom it by doing it the right way. The basic concept here is that we are not just talking about the 5 sense organs that we already know about. That is something we typically work and teach children. But we are talking about 12 different senses that we are going to be looking in addition to these 5. Because when I see with my eyes, I see the colors. I don't see the essence most of the time. I see what is visible on the outer surface. And based on my own belief systems, based on my own karmic baggage or whatever you call it, I interpret things that is comfortable or that is what I'm conditioned with. And I don't actually let it sink in, and then we see, it's very evident because I work with lots of schools and school children. It's very evident that we have early everything right now. Early classes, early graying, early diabetes, early blood pressure, everything is like shifted back by several decades, if not years. And you name it, we have problem with it. And that's because of this overstimulation that we have in the present condition. So we are looking at the 12 sense organs, the sense of touch, we know that, how the touch, when we look at it from grooming us from inside, it is touch, like how your talk touches me, how a gesture touches me, not just the touch that, like a slap or a hit or the physical touch. The touch here is defining where I end, because it's the outer covering, it's the entire body. So where I end and where the world begins. Right? So it's my ability to reach beyond me. You know, we always say, I mean, transform and transcend are my favorite statements. You know, when I say transform, I'm always thinking going beyond my touch sense. You know, where I can touch myself, you know, if not anybody else, and how can I look at me in a different way? So I can touch myself internally. So when I say touch, I mean, just in a physical way, I mean, we talk about good touch, bad touch, always in the school. Now, how does that trigger my internal systems? You know, how a look of your, the gaze, the way we look at children or anybody else for that matter, how does that affect me? I mean, does that create fear in me? Does that create frustration in me, irritation in me? Based on that, we hold on. We know that, you know, this sadness and stress we hold in our Anahata Chakra. So body holds it in different ways. And depending on where we hold something for very long, we begin creating problems. We begin creating diseases. I mean, it was dis-ease to begin with, but then it becomes a disease when it's done several times. And the situation may not happen several times, but then I repeat myself in my mind, depending on the situation, several times over and over, and then it becomes hardened in my body. And that is when, you know, we very beautifully with Redikall, we pay attention to that part that is aching, and we kind of let it go by repeating the statements and paying attention to it. Now, when I'm looking at outer sense organs affecting my internal sense organs, even before this deposits in my body, can I do something about it? Right? So in the first stage of child development, which is until about age 7, sense of touch is very much that needs to be nurtured. Along with it also are 3 other senses which we don't generally talk about. It is sense of life. Sense of life is about my existence itself. Sense of life is about the rhythm that is out in the nature and in my body. Am I aware of it? The breathing in, breathing out rhythm. You know, when I breathe in, the air that I breathe in goes through my entire body. Every cell receives that exchange of air that happens, exchange of oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide that happens. Now, when I do it with attention, there is that exchange happening beautifully, but how many times are we even paying attention to that? Sense of life is established when we have a rhythm in our daily life. You know, so just like sunrise and sunset, it's not a routine, but it's a rhythm. Something happens after something, and certain things happen, definitely happen. They are like pillars of the day. It definitely has to happen. The meal time happens between 12 and 1. Dinner time happens between 6:30 and 7:30, whatever we have set up in our family. But the minute we continue to do it, there's so much of courage, there's so much of confidence. The minute we don't do it, we are random, we are haphazard, there's so much of the opposite effect that gets created. Our internal digestive system gets affected. My ability to even produce the gut issues that we have these days. Gut is called the second brain, or compared even with the first brain. That itself is affected. We have children suffering from constipation because of this inattention, to this. So as adults, when we are aware of this, it becomes easier for us to establish this rhythm in our daily life. And I do that several times. I find my need to have a rhythm in my life. As simple as that, wanting that, because we're so unaware about it, wanting to have a rhythm. I mean, when we're going to school, when you're working 8 to 5 jobs, it becomes a little easier because we got to be at a certain place, certain time. But again, our mornings are so rushed that we don't even pay attention to many of the things that help us begin our day properly. right? So sense of life is something, is another sense that we need to develop. It's like a muscle that we develop. There is no organ for it, but it is a very essential organ that affects us internally. Then we have a sense of movement. Movement is not just my body. I mean, children move, I move, everybody moves, plants move, but the movement that's establishing balance. We always talk about polarities. There is always something good and there is opposite something bad. But then the need is to establish that neutrality, that balance between the two extremes, or transcending even that balance at some point of time. But initially, it's the movement that definitely is an indicator. Many of us, even adults, we do not have that balance. The physical balance definitely has a consequence on the internal balance. That's why we do the alternate nostril breathing, the anulom vilom, to balance the nadis. Day and night we need to balance. Good and bad we need to balance. So many of these balancing movements is essential in our daily rhythm again. And this is something we need to also make it a priority, in addition to the sense of touch we are developing in the first stage of child development. But since we have not developed, maybe we have not paid attention to it. It is definitely, especially when we do the stretches, when we do yoga, there is always a forward bend and there is a backward bend. There is always action and then rest. This is also rhythm. Do and rest. Do and rest is a rhythm. And it's also about movement. Doing and not doing is also movement. So all these things is something we need to take care of. In addition to that, we have a sense of balance. That is when we develop the balance of our the physical organ is ear, which is the three tubes that are in our ear that establishes that balance. When we sit down, we need to have three-dimensional movement. Typically, we have forward movement. We don't have as much of sideward movements. We have up and down movement, especially when we have to sit down all the way to the floor and stand up. That is a vertical movement. We don't have as much of a left-right movement. We hardly have backward movement. So we, even at this age, though I know that the 5 feet behind me is all empty, I would still not be very confident walking backwards or walking with my eyes closed. So this is a direct link to the trust that we develop in ourselves and in situations beyond us. I mean, it could go all the way up to, at a spiritual level, all the way having faith in my guru or in the gods that I believe in the energies that's out there. But when I practice this, invariably, I will be able to develop that trust. And so the life, the sense of balance, the sense of movement, the sense of touch, and sense of life. These are in the three senses, in addition to the sense of touch, that we need to be developing definitely for the first 7 years of the child life. And if we have not done that, anytime we should be able to do that. So if I go back and start doing my yoga right now, and I have to stand in Vrikshasana, I will not be able to balance. Of course, now I can blame it on my body weight. The weight is distributed this way, that one. But you see people who are balanced with their body weight, they can balance it beautifully. So it is not about the body weight, but it is about the inner balance as well. Establishing that inner balance. And they always complement each other. If I'm balanced internally, I'm definitely going to be balanced in my body as well, though it may take a little bit of practice. But we need to begin that by trusting the process. That is where the Redikall also comes in. I trust this process. I don't worry about being ridiculed, being complained, being sidelined, whatever it is. I just admit it under the loving care and I just do it. And it may take few days, it may take few months, but it's all up to how much faith I have in the system, in the process, and how much daily I practice it. That's the rhythm. If my rhythm is, that's what my rhythm. It took me a long time, but since about 6 months, I would say now, I have this rhythm where I wake up and write it out. Write out the statements that get posted in the group, reflect upon it for some time, and then see what kind of emotions or triggers it is creating in me, and why is it creating in me, and how am I supposed to balance it. So we have the statements that we get every day are the transform and transcend, and based on that, it triggers so many others, and I just reflect upon it and keep working on it. And that's part of my every morning rhythm. And if I miss it, I'm supremely uncomfortable. And that is where I'm developing a sense of balance, a sense of movement, and a sense of life. When somebody said, just live your life, celebrate your life, I never understood what that was. Celebrations, I understand. It's like party, talk, this and that. But end of it, you're tired, you're fatigued, you wish you had done something different, you wish you had not done something there. So there was imbalance throughout celebration. And the end, if at all you have time to reflect, we sit and reflect upon, oh, I should not have, but it's already done, it's done, gone. So now what's happening with this, establishing the senses, the outer senses, of observing something, looking at something, identifying what it is triggering within me, and trying to use the statements that I know to establish that balance, so I don't continue to I don't become this spiral, making one mistake after the other mistake and the next mistake. So somewhere I'm able to break that, because I'm noticing what's happening in me. And initially I had to set alarm for every 30 minutes, it would just go on, and it's like, what is it? Just stop and see what's happening in your head. Now, what did you see that triggered something? What did you hear that triggered something? What is that touch? Maybe a touch could be something like somebody spilled some food on the floor and somebody stamped over it, and that would create a great discomfort in me. And all that is accidental. Nobody did it on purpose, but just that seeing that and feeling that, even though I didn't stamp on it, but I could feel that touch. And I would feel very disturbed by it, right? So now I keep the napkins handy, the mop cloth, the washcloth, whatever handy. So whenever somebody does something, I instantly clean it. So I don't have to go through that. That's a shift that I can see in myself. And it took me a long time to do that, to consciously do that, until it becomes a habit. Right? Sometimes it just becomes, after some certain number of practice, it becomes a habit. Now, the reason why we want to establish this senses right whenever we find, we start wherever we are. I'm talking the school language, we focus a lot on kindergarten children developing these senses through a lot of different activities. But now I catch myself, I'm 56 now, I catch myself that I don't, if you just stretch your hands out, and if you have to close your eyes and go grab the middle finger of your other hand, it's not easy for many people. I've done this several times now. But if I move my hand ups and down and stretch it out a little bit, I don't have sense of where my fingers are in the space. And obviously, I won't have an idea of where my body is in the space. That is sense of movement that I have not cultivated or I have not mastered. So anytime I do this clumsiness, I just, move my hand and I spill a glass of water. Instantly I'm like, I transform and transcend my need to drop the glass out. That's become like a habit now, so it's like, I didn't do it on purpose, but people don't believe it, right? Can't you just see it's right over there, especially if a child did it or someone else younger than me, my niece, nephews do it. It's like instant blame game. But my ability to stop there and recognize and shift from that energy space is what is because of this identifying these senses and how it is affecting me internally and how I can resolve it. Redikall gives me the solutions. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, I recognize, then what? I don't have a sense of movement. So what do I do now? I mean, I won't go balancing on a beam and stand on one foot for, a number of times. So I do that as well. But then along with it, this is something that gives me an instant way of working with myself. So there is a shift within me. And then we also have the other senses, sense of taste, sense of smell, sense of vision. They are there when the child is growing up, but they're not very pronounced, or they're not affecting them internally. Because children just see it and go do something, they smell it and it doesn't really bother them. Maybe they're smelling for the first time, whatever, like that. But as we adults are working with it, there is also a sense of warmth. Sense of warmth is where I feel the compassion, self-compassion, as well as compassion for situation, people, animals, places, reverence and gratitude is what comes with it as part of, again, it's a sense that we can develop. It's a muscle that we can develop, and that is what I need to do. So, so I do not let that affect my external reactions. I begin to respond, and I don't have to respond to everything either. I can pick and choose what I need to respond to, what I don't need to respond to. And that discrimination has come in me now. Earlier, there was a need to prove that I didn't do it on purpose, or that's how I do it. But bringing this balance between external stimulus, I mean, we are overstimulated these days. You go into Instagram, you don't just see what you want to see. You will easily spend 45 minutes without your awareness. You may have clicked on some links and shopped also for something in the process. So there's a lot of overstimulation that's existing. So cut that all out is that sense of sight. Now, what is that triggering me when I look at something on sale, a Diwali sale, bumper sale, whatnot, you see it everywhere. Now, what is that telling me? Right? I have been cleaning the house. I'm like, am I cleaning? Is it because of Diwali? Or is it because people are going to be home? Or is it that I want? Right? And it may be that I want, then why don't I clean it every day? Right? Every day I clean one window, but today I'm cleaning all windows. So what is that trigger with the sense of sight, which is vision that is developing? Now, the reason why we want to develop this sense is I need to be able to develop a far-sightedness, the vision that takes me towards my purpose. In anthroposophy, what we are talking about is doing both, going backwards. That's what we talked in the last time. The biography is going backwards in my life to see if there is a story as to why I was born, why I am born as Shubha in Karnataka, speaking Kannada with this kind of family, whatever. So if I'm able to understand that, then I will be able to be on the right path towards my destiny. So the whole effort that we are doing is to see the purpose in my life and to see that I'm on that path. Right. And I love the statement, easily and effortlessly. So what I have understood of that is when it's not, I had misunderstood it earlier. It has to be easy in the sense that, I should not spend a lot of time or money or effort or whatever. No, it's now what I understand is that it could be very strenuous. I could be spending days and nights on it. I could be physically tired, but I'm enjoying it. That means I am on my path. And I'm able to understand the path that I'm on, provided I understand the patterns and I heal those patterns in my past. So those patterns don't repeat, and hence my march forward will be easier. So that vision that I need to develop, ability to see, if seeing is just not the physical object, I need to see what I don't see. When I stand in front of a mirror, it's not just my physical, what do I see beyond me that nobody can see? Which is what we talk in Redikall all the time, right? To the mirroring self, the world mirrors you. Am I able to see that? Or am I just blaming and keep fighting on that? So the ability to smell, I have this ability. I don't know how many of them have, or is it very common? But if I have not put enough salt or no salt in my sambar or whatever, I can smell and identify that there is no salt. I don't have to taste it. And that is something that I can relate to when I say go beyond smell that I smell. I mean, is there something else that I am missing when I'm smelling something or not smelling something? So when I smell something, what happens internally in me? Now, when I smell the sambar and I don't smell the salt in it, what's happening inside me? Is something that I need to ponder on daily basis, because it doesn't just click right away. I mean, that is when the Redikall helps. I admit my unawareness. I don't know what it is it's creating within me, but there's something happening. And I need to know that. I want to know that. So I can understand my inner self. So I can balance my outer stimulus to my inner growth. I mean, that is where, when people say, I don't know, but when we are on the spiritual path, we are typically alone. I alone have to do it. I cannot be trumpeting about it and going around, because there's a lot of changes are happening within me, and what I say today may not be true tomorrow. And if that is changes are happening and that's in the direction of my destiny, then I'm definitely progressing. When the purpose of my birth is fulfilled just because I'm on that destiny. Otherwise, it's like what Adi Shankaracharya said, right? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Like this life birth cycle continues, death birth cycle. So the sense of taste is about what is your taste. I mean, taste need not be just in the tongue, in the fabric you pick, in the job you do, in the kind of friends we pick. What is your taste? I mean, that's very colloquial language, but we need to take it a little bit more seriously. So we go a little bit more deeper about understanding how are these external stimulus molding my inner being. What is that taste that I'm looking for here? What is that I want from this sense of taste that I'm developing, or I need to develop? Thinking a little bit deeper, initially we can begin with surrendering, admitting my unawareness, but slowly you will start paying attention to just water. When you sip water, what is the taste like? What is it satisfying in me? We don't even pay attention to it, right? We just gulp down the water and say, I'm satisfied. In what way? How? What else is satisfying you? Is it through taste only? Right? So these are the basic senses that mold us from within. And it is not just molding us, it's giving us a concept of who I am. The sense of life is giving me a concept about my own life because of the rhythm that I'm establishing, because of the breathing pattern that I have to establish, because of the balance that I'm establishing, because of that, because of the rhythm. A sense of ego, a healthy ego, where I respect me and I respect everybody else. That's another sense that we have to develop, sense of ego. Right? There's a mutual respect, mutual gratitude, mutual reverence that we develop. Because what we are also trying to do here is in one of the concepts in anthroposophy, the every night sleep is the younger brother of the death, which is the big brother. So breathing in, taking this birth is incarnation on this planet, and death is the excarnation. We leave this body and kind of go out. So sleep is partly like that death, because we are dead to the physical senses. When we are deep asleep, we are not even aware what's happening. So technically my astral body and my ego body kind of detach themselves. I remember another radical statement: when we wake up in the morning, you gather all your energies before you get on to do something. What is that gathering energy all about? It's about bringing my subtle bodies and integrating with my physical body before I start my day, because I'm essentially a new person every morning. And that is the concept that I need to have. I am revived every morning. And before I go to bed every night, I admit it with full of gratitude, with this sense of ego, healthy ego, that I don't know what I am. Who am I? I don't know, but I'm figuring it out. I mean, all these external stimuluses are giving me an idea as to who I could be. What am I hearing, what people say about me? When somebody says that, Shubha is this, is it satisfying my lower ego, or is it really pushing me with my higher ego? That sense of hearing is what I need to develop. Because that's establishing balance within me. When I have that balance within me, it's like, it's easy to transform and transcend. Because otherwise it's still very verbal. It is still very intellectual. It has not become my wisdom. According to the biography that Rudolf Steiner mentions, which I think I showed that graph last time, 56th year is where you transition from your emotional state into the intellectual state. So 56 to 63 to 70 is the intellectual development. Intellectual is not about adding more information to me, but practicing whatever I gathered till now, becoming wiser, implementing implementing the knowledge, the information that I have, so it becomes my experience. That's why I'm so excited, to turn 56. And I was looking forward to my 56th birthday just because I was wanting indications from the universe that, yes, I'm ready for that transition. And the transition begins about 2 years before. So, I started doing Redikall about the same time, and I started with, anthroposophical mentoring around the same time. And then that transition to implement. And I did start with that, integrate everything with my daily practices. Right now I read, but I do not speak it until it has become my experience. So that way, that's how biography kind of links in with this internal, external organs, balancing of external stimulus with internal organ being. And once it's established, you really feel healthy within. But the minute there is any disturbance in our body, the organs in the body, there is retention of water in kidneys, or your breathing capacity, your backache, whatever, it's a clear indication that the sensory overload is something I'm not able to manage. What I hear, what I see, what I smell, what I taste, the touch that I get, the sense of well-being, the sense of warmth, compassion, life, movement, all of these is something that we need to seriously look into. Yeah. And because, I mean, especially with children and even with us, we know Vishuddhi Chakra is about communication. Somewhere the communication does not develop well when the movement is not balanced, when the sense of movement is not balanced. The movement is going to give rise to the ability to speak well, the ability to articulate well, the language capacity. Right? So those become the higher senses. We classify these 12 senses. The sense of touch, life, movement, and balance are lower senses. The sense of vision, smell, warmth, and taste are middle senses. The sense of hearing, the language, the sense of my life, a concept about my life, and a healthy ego are the higher senses. So once we have our lower senses in place, no matter what age we are in, we will be able to move up, transition into utilizing our middle senses well. Once my middle senses and lower senses are integrated and understood, then I can transition easily and effortlessly into my higher senses. And once the inputs that I get from these balanced senses are scrutinized and filtered, then naturally my physical internal organs are going to be balanced. Yeah. So any questions?
Wow, wow, Shubha, that was very, very interesting. And for me right now, I'd like to ask the audience that were you looking, seeing, or absorbing what she was saying? Or were you listening, hearing, or again, absorbing what was being said? I think that is some substance of what Shubha has tried to educate us with. And it's been very interesting to know the way you have transitioned from base level to middle level and top level, and how wisdom is the ultimate that we need to learn from all that we experience. But at the same time, what is beautiful is the use of radical statements that you keep talking about. For the newcomers who have joined and may not know what radical statements is, because you would have heard Shubha saying, I admit very often. So that is part of the affirmation statements that we use in radical. And it's a beautiful section where you can admit a lot of things to the um, to radical consciousness. Or she mentioned, I transform and transcend. So we have a lot of programs that we run on a daily basis, where you can also join in the, as part of the recitations, as part of open house. And how would you do that? By becoming a premium member of Radical. So the details would be available on the website. You can have a look at that. And otherwise, we are all there. You can contact any of us. We will tell you the details. But now, Shubha, I would like to understand, if we are practicing all this, and if we are following all this, we know that we can make our lives easy, effortless, and fun, right? But how does one try to become very aware of what is happening inside, or how should they understand it? I know I tell a lot of students and people whom I communicate with that look at yourself in the mirror. Look at those eyes, that are looking back at you. That is the real, for example, Shubha, who's looking back at you. That is the real Shubha who meets the world. So that is again a way of looking and seeing things. So how would we understand, when a kind of awakening is happening inside us? Just for the people, how would they understand it?
Yeah. The first thing is, I want to evolve. Somewhere there, I need to have that in the background, that I'm not happy with what is happening around me. And I want to be at ease. That will set you on a searching path.
Right.
And I did quite a bit of that before. But when I did talk to Mamta, who is my mentor for Redikall, and she was like, yeah, I was blaming everybody, right? I mean, everybody is the problem, not me. She said, yeah, but how do you feel? I mean, she never like cut me out. She never like advised me, but then how do you feel? And that was the changing point for me, I would say. How do I feel? I never paid attention to that. There are these little butterflies, your heart goes, there is this anxiety, and I would get migraines every time I felt rejected. I would get, I mean, now that I'm telling rejected, that hardly comes to me. That was my biggest problem. I started Redikall in 2020. Rejection was my biggest thing. And I would get like instant headaches. Splitting headache. I only the full deep sleep I would wake up refreshed. Otherwise, it would just not budge. So somewhere paying attention to what's happening in your body.
Right.
Little irritation, sweaty hands, wanting to eat, wanting to drink more. There is definitely the body is going to talk to me.
Right.
And for me, that was it. I mean, very recently, my chest would be so congested, I thought I was getting a heart attack. And I did talk to Mamta. I have this like load on me. I don't know what that is. Though I had been practicing, pay attention to it and get that energy out, and all that I've done. But in those moments, I still don't do it.
Right.
But
Right.
then I could not live with it, right? So I had to because physical, I had to go through it. So all this external stimulus, I look at something yucky, that triggers something in me. I look something sweet, that triggers in me. The sweetness could also trigger jealousy in me.
Right.
Right. It's not always the sweet feeling. So I would pay attention to any change in my body.
Right. So there's a key point that Shubha has made, and that is for all of us, that whenever we are triggered or whenever we are going through any emotion, feeling that the world is targeting us or the circumstances are targeting us or, the situations that is around us, just for a moment, sit down and ask yourself, how does it make me feel? So if you're feeling angry or if you're feeling hurt or if you're upset, that's where Redikall comes in. And that's where you get your statements that help you to heal yourself. And you can do it all yourself with auto healing. So Shubha, you've given us a great learning again today. But anybody having any questions, please raise your hands. And Shubha is here to answer. We have just about 10 minutes more. Anybody would like to ask Shubha something?
I'd like to add one more thing. When I'm triggered, it's difficult for me to accept that I'm triggered and work on it. So what I have started, especially with anthroposophy coming into picture, for example, I'm not a big artsy person, but this was a project I had to make. It's like a flat crochet spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I started it turned out into a cap. It never laid flat. And I cannot give it in. I just kept doing it. And every time, that's a normal state, right? I mean, there is also this time, I can't do it. I'm not an artsy person. I'm useless. All that is going on. And all that I'm admitting as I'm doing, but I'm still doing it. And finally, maybe after like 5th, 6th try, I started getting it flatter. So working on the statements or working when I'm in a normal situation where I'm not triggered is also something that helped me a lot. Because every time anything handiwork, anything art, I do a lot of art. I'm not good, but I do it just to understand where I rush through things. So when I'm painting, just that little patience to draw that line a little bit, I don't have. And I want to be perfect like those established artists. So, that discrepancy is there. So when I'm not triggered, I keep working on it. That has helped me as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a deep insight. And yes, ultimately, you have to keep working on it. Whatever your situation is, whether it is to create a crochet piece, whether it's a painting, whether it's a cooking dish which you just want to master, or whether it's deciding, to start running and training as a marathon runner at 60 plus. You just have to get to it.
Yeah.
And that is the same for all that is inside you. Your organs, your internal organs are all there to respond to all the external stimulus that you provide. So thank you very much, Shubha. That was a wonderful session again.
Thank you.
And yes, and again, if anybody has any question, otherwise we will close it now. And we'll open the page of Circle for Peaceful Progress. Please do write your feedback over there and let us know. Oh yeah, okay, Apurva, you have a question. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, I want to ask if your sense of spatial intelligence is not that developed. So how does it affect you internally?
Well, if you don't have the spatial intelligence, you are lost, right? Like a small kid, there is the toy on a shelf that is 6 foot tall, and the child is trying to jump and get it, though knowing that he cannot get it. And in the process, there is frustration that is developing, right? So what is that frustration within the body? You see that? So that's essentially what we are also doing when we don't have that developed. I know that I cannot get to some place. I know I cannot reach out through this little crevice to clean my window, yet I try to do that and get frustrated about it. Rather than looking for tools that will help me clean those crevices or get somebody to do it for me. Right? So the frustration is about holding on to that anger. Again, your digestive system, it's where it's held. Right? So you may not be able to eat well, you will not eat because you are frustrated, or you hold it, but you won't let it go. Right? Does that answer you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Shubha.
Hi.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Hi. Just pardon me because I missed some 10 minutes in between. There was an important call. So your talk. So if you've answered, I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
Have you tried? So I might feel a little out of context. Have you tried relating senses to common diseases like diabetes, blood pressure, cancer, acidity? How does that, what would be the guidance for people going through this common stuff, cold cough?
Yeah. So anytime there is, according to what I understand, the stimulus creating the holding up. Diabetes is about unable to digest the sugar. So what am I unable to digest? So when I look at something, when I hear something, what am I not able to digest with what I see? Right? What am I unable to let go would be kidney problems, because kidney is about filtering stuff. So what am I unable to let go is held on as part of bloating in the body or your creatinine levels going up. And I remember my dad had severe kidney problems, and he could not even let go of his fist. Like when we went for massage and the doctor would say, let go, and he didn't know what that let go was. Loosening of the body was also not possible for him. So according to the organs function, now lungs is about taking in the air the fresh air and supplying it to the heart or through exchange of gases. Now, what is that I'm unwilling to trade or take and give back?
Right.
So that's how we could go with going from the disease perspective. If I already have some disease, I go backwards.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So as everybody would have just heard, that was Aatmn with us, and we are privileged. Thank you, Aatmn, for joining us today on this special session of Fulsome Friday. And deep gratitude for all that you have done for us in Redikall. And all of us hold that very, very close to our hearts. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And
Aatmn is always in my gratitude statement every day.
yes, yes.
So thank you, Aatmn.
I'm blessed. In fact, it's a very collective work, let me tell you. It wouldn't have been possible single-handedly had it not been for so many people who are backing it. Here, Varsha's there, Reena's there, Baljit, Barinder. I can see almost all, Anita. They've been with us, and including my internal team. Aarti is there, Apurva is there. Thank you, for being there like strong pillars who've taken a lot and, who've kind of been there, thick and thin. Thank you so much. It's with all of us. I think we all enrolled ourselves into perhaps the soul level commitment. So when people say, thank you, I don't take it. I've just played my role, I guess.
Yeah.
And so are everyone. So when everyone plays the role that they are meant to play together, we create something. So that's what has happened. And it's pre-planned for everyone. So do make the most out of it. And as you said, this is something, it's a take back for me, Shubha. Work on yourself when there is no need to work. And work is phenomenal. No?
Yeah.
And somehow today I was sitting, I took 3 hours off, 4 hours. I gave my phone in the office, completely cut off. And I was doing just that. Sitting and just doing statements for no reason. Like, in a way, not for addressing an issue, but going within, using statements to go within. It's more like a soul search. And these are such beautiful experiences. And I truly recommend, don't just stick to any therapeutic work, including Redikall only for your SOS. Make it a routine and sometimes go beyond routine and give your soul a special treat.
True, very true.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So that's my takeaway and recommendation from you. Thank you so much, Shubha. And really look forward to some more nuggets from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Aatmn, for joining us today. And as I said, we'll be opening up the group Circle of Peaceful Progress. Please do leave your feedback. It's important for us so that we know what is it that you want on your platform, right? And we will keep bringing a mix of everything on Fulsome Fridays. So have a great evening. All the best. Bye-bye.